If you're drawn to magic, it's probably because you aren't satisfied with living a normal life. You want something more than that. Purpose, excitement, to feel powerful. When you try it and get your first small but promising results, it does feel like progress towards everything you're seeking. Finally, you can see a way out of a mundane existence. But all too often, magic becomes another disappointment. No matter how much time and effort you invest, no matter how many grimoires you read, that transformation you wanted deep down never really comes. You improve to a point, but get stuck there. Ultimately, your life is the same as before. There seem to be two options. You can carry on making meagre enhancements, or, like I did for a long time, get frustrated and dismiss magic entirely. But I now know it can work. Magic can change your life and bring all those benefits, but it requires a totally different approach to what's usually taught. Instead of getting caught up in things that don't matter, like using the exact right combination of words or colour of candle, you directly instruct the secret mechanism that makes all magic work. A particular layer of energy that's very responsive to human intention. I'll explain this in detail in a few minutes, but my key message is, all the rituals, sigils, and mystical language is overcomplication that just holds you back. You don't need any equipment, you don't need to follow any pre-existing technique, you don't even need to use symbols, because you already have the power to change reality within you. All you do need is your intention, used in a certain way, on this one energy field. Once you stop wasting time and effort on complicated methods, you unlock the true effective version of magic, the kind that can bring in the new people and opportunities you've been yearning for, constantly shape circumstances in your favour, help you achieve whatever you dream about. You finally get control over the way your life goes, instead of things just happening to you. But to get that, you need to let go of all the misinformation surrounding magic. I know the witchy aesthetic is appealing, and it's thrilling to have all this esoteric knowledge others don't. I was taken in by it too. But attachment to any tradition gets in the way of genuine transformation. It stops you from seeing if there might be a better way. Most people practicing magic get tiny results, so why would you follow the methods they're using? To get something new, you need to do something new. This alternative method I'm proposing, of direct instruction, brings more change for less time and effort. It means you can get purpose, power, a different life, whatever you're seeking, for real. No more settling for incremental change, no more disappointment. This video will comprehensively cover this new approach to magic. We'll start with the explanation of why mainstream methods are ineffective, and how energy, intention, and magic really work. Most of it, however, will be practical. That includes a step-by-step guide on how to design your own spells, and how to do powerful magic with real results. By the end, you'll have the knowledge and technique to transform your life in whatever direction you want, without going through years of frustrating trial and error like I did. Be prepared for controversial points that go against conventional beliefs, and of course don't blindly believe what I say either. This approach really works for me. I'm convinced it's far superior, but it's up to you what you do. Hear me out, try it, see if it works for you, and adapt as necessary. The first thing to explain is, if magic has all this amazing potential, why do most spells only create tiny enhancements? The root cause is, it's been taught completely wrong. There's so much misinformation out there about magic. Simple truths are distorted and overcomplicated, and vital facts are left out entirely. If the theoretical foundation is mostly wrong, then the practices based on it are going to be mostly wrong too. So of course results are small and unreliable. For instance, there's a common misunderstanding that magical power is outside of you, in esoteric rituals or spells that others have created. The problem is, they're usually very inefficient. Most of your effort is wasted on following steps that have a tiny impact on the end result. It's like taking a complex, winding route when you could just go in a straight line. So it's no wonder that even if you put everything into a ritual, you never get as much change as you actually want. Alternatively, you can start from the truth, learn how energy, intention, and magic really work. Then you can figure out the most effective practice, and much better results naturally follow. Once you know how important the magical energy field is, that's where your intent needs to go, you can cut out all the complex intermediate steps and directly instruct it. Everything goes into the mechanism that actually brings results. Your time and effort are no longer wasted. This is why it's so important to dispel myths and get the basics right. To do magic in the best way and achieve maximum transformation, you need to start with the right information. So let's look at what everyone's first questions are. What is magic and how does it work? It's funny how all these witchy websites and books can have thousands of spells, but they gloss over the fundamentals. The only answers you do get are wishy-washy stories, like it's the universe responding to your desire, or the power of intention with no explanation of how that works. All the usual definitions and explanations of magic are either misleading or so vague that they're basically useless. I've created a more precise definition. Magic is instructing a particular energy field by intention to change your life in a desired way. Notice that it doesn't include spells or rituals, only intention. Magic has become closely associated with all sorts of methods, sigils, herbs, crystals. They might look cool, but they're totally unnecessary and have become a distraction from what magic really is. Your intention instructing a particular energy. That's it. A spellbook might make reference to universal energy, but that's misleading. One precise type or layer of energy out of many is the mechanism behind how all magic works. When you do a spell, it's what takes in your intention as instruction and delivers the change. Sensing and using that energy field should be front and center, yet it's totally left out. Now we've got a proper definition, let's get on to how all this works. There's some general explanation on energy and intention first, that you need to know before magic makes sense. I'll try to keep it quick and simple. So, you've probably heard about the astral realm, the human aura, different types of spirits, that they all exist invisibly as spiritual or subtle energy. These ideas can seem quite distant and irrelevant to daily life, but actually, the opposite is true. This energy is all around you, affects you every second of every day, and can be used to profoundly improve your life. I always explain spiritual energy as being like ultraviolet light. They both exist here, in the same world as physical matter, all around you. You can't see either of them because they're just beyond regular perception. But just because something is invisible doesn't mean it isn't real or can't affect you. Ultraviolet light is an example of this. It helps us produce vitamin D, but too much can damage the skin. Likewise, spiritual energy plays all kinds of roles in our mental, emotional, and bodily functions. Some types can also harm us. So we're not talking about something in far-off realms or that's only for gurus. Spiritual energy is around you and within you right now. It's already a huge part of your life. The exciting thing is, once you know about energy, then you can consciously harness its power to improve yourself and change the world around you. Before we can understand how energy affects things, we need to go into the structure of reality. It's made of many layers. The physical is just one, where the basic building block is matter. In the astral, another layer, it's astral energy, and so on. These layers all exist in the same space. They're around you all the time. To help you picture this, imagine you have a specialist camera that can pick up ultraviolet light and infrared. You'd see that they all exist simultaneously. The same objects are there, but they look a little different because of the properties of each type of light. Now picture doing that with a camera that can see spiritual energy. You could toggle up to the astral lens and see everything around you reflected in astral energy. The same object and your own body would be there, just a bit grey and transparent. This layered structure is how every space, object, and person can have multiple types of spiritual energy in them. It all coexists on top of each other. We can arrange the layers into a spectrum, with the physical at the bottom. That's because matter is the densest, heaviest type of energy you can get. As a result, it tends to be very slow and difficult to change things in the physical. It's no wonder then that it's so tricky to change your life if you only use physical means. You work harder and don't seem to get any further. But by learning about energy, you get a whole new toolbox. Transformation becomes much easier. The astral is still fairly low down on the spectrum because astral energy, the building block there, is still quite heavy and hard to shift. But as you go up, the energy gets more fluid, less dense, easier to change. Go up far enough and you'll reach the magical energy field. Even though it's in the same space as the physical, it has very different properties and behaviour. It flows through what looks to be empty space, and most of the objects around you have little presence there. Hopefully that idea of layers makes sense. It's not complicated really, just remember there are multiple layers to reality, existing in the same space, each with their own type of energy. The physical has matter, a very dense and rigid energy. Higher layers have increasingly fluid and changeable energies. You and everything around you exists in many layers at once. It's just like how you exist in visible light and ultraviolet and infrared. Now that we've got the basic structure, we can talk about how spiritual energy can affect the physical, the bridge that makes magic and other methods work. These layers interact with those nearest to them on this spectrum. The energies are close enough in their properties or density that they're somewhat compatible. So, any significant alteration in one layer of an object, space, or person will partially spill over into the next one. It's a blurry, weaker version, but it might still be a significant enough change for the process to repeat itself. It interacts with the next energy. The change shows up in the next layer, but as an even more diluted version. In this way, an energetic change can ripple all the way down to the physical. There's a loss of strength and detail at every stage. So the initial change has to be very pronounced and clear for this to happen. It also takes time. There's a delay with each layer a change passes through. But now you can see how something spiritual and visible can affect the world you can see. Because energy is all around and within you, this same process can affect anything. If a big change happens in the energy of an object, it might alter its physical properties. In a person, it might affect their behaviour or physical health. That's why I always say that these spiritual energies are just as real and important as the solid 3D world. They affect our health, how we feel and think day to day, everything. I'm going to call this process translation. It works in both directions. Changes can pass from the physical up to the spiritual, and crucially, from spiritual energy all the way down to physical matter. It's absolutely key to magic and any kind of spiritual technique. Translation naturally occurs everywhere, but within the human body, it's even more pronounced. There's a few reasons for that. One, we exist across many more layers than the average. You have an astral body, an etheric body, and so on, going very far up the spectrum. These energy bodies are also all substantial. Because there's no weak connections in the chain, translation can go up and down unimpeded. And finally, all these layers of us are designed to be highly connected. There are spiritual signals that need to get through to keep us functioning as healthy, intelligent beings. So we're designed to share information between our different energies. As a result, translation is accelerated, more precise, comes through stronger than is usual across our body. This makes us generally sensitive to all kinds of energies. Any change translates quickly and strongly, so deeply affects us. But here's the crucial part. This hyper-translation also means we can affect energy. Remember, it works two ways. Just as an energetic effect can cascade down to your physical body, so a thought or desire originating in your physical brain can rapidly and strongly translate up to more fluid energies. For example, if you are stressing over some problem, that will almost immediately be reflected as turbulence in your astral brain and beyond. Changing energy can also be a deliberate act. This is the basis of magic and many more techniques. We're not just built to be influenced by energy, we're built to influence it in turn. Your intention, in particular, is extremely powerful and versatile. As soon as you will energy to change, this big process kicks off within you to make it happen. You don't need to know every technical detail. It's like how you don't need to know how your lungs work in order to breathe. You're designed to do it, it's instinctive. But I will give you the basics, because it really helps when it comes to doing effective magic. When you start to intend, it creates a signal that translates from your physical to energetic brain very quickly, because it's so well connected between layers. A signal also goes to the higher layers of your heart. Brain and heart coordinate to beam your intention as a set of instructions to whatever object, person, or location is relevant to your aim. The matter there is just too rigid for intention to shift. So instead, it instructs the more easily changeable layers further up the spectrum. That instruction is so powerful that the target energy is forced to change structure, quality, whatever's required, until your intended transformation is achieved, or you reach the limit of your current energetic strength. More on that in a few minutes. Your job is now done. That change you've made will naturally translate down to denser energies, losing some clarity and strength as it goes. In time, it will reach and affect the physical. This is the simple secret to transforming your life. Your intention translates up to your energy body. It's able to project that across to whatever place is relevant to your aim. That translates back down to the physical, so you experience the benefit. This same process can be used to do almost anything, and I really mean anything. Magic is just one application. I'll quickly let you know about some of the others. Self-improvement usually takes years of painful experiences, reflection, and discipline, but intention makes it easy. You intend to make yourself better in some way. Your heart and brain beam those instructions to whatever part of yourself is relevant. The change made rapidly translates down to your denser layers, and even your physical body and brain. You can change yourself so you feel better and more energetic every single day. Even carefully edit your personality traits to become the person you always wanted to be. You can also transform anything outside yourself, because intention can be projected across great distances. It is more difficult. Projection takes practice. Also, whatever target you choose might not be as connected as we are between layers. So the downward translation to the physical is slower, weaker, less precise. But don't let that put you off. The possibilities here are endless. You can even develop something like superpowers by learning to change denser energies. Because there's less translation, you get an almost instant physical effect. One of the easier powers to learn is changing how other people feel, think, and act. You project your intention across to them, temporarily influence relevant parts of their denser energy body, and that quickly filters through to their behavior. It doesn't have to focus on others. You choose whatever external target you want. With intention, the only limit is your imagination. But what if you want more broad transformation? This is where magic comes in. It's quite unusual in that you only instruct one specific layer, which I'm going to call the magical energy field. But that layer has very special properties, which mean it can produce wide change in your whole outer life. You aren't stuck making tiny changes one at a time. Magic can do many things at once. So with intention, you can make yourself better internally, master specific external powers, and create general transformation by magic. This means you don't have to put up with a life you don't like. Learn to apply this one tool with a million uses, and you can do anything. That includes finding true excitement and purpose. But to apply any of this, you need to know how to best intend. There's one tip to remember, whether you're doing self-improvement, powers, or magic, and that's to make your intention as strong and clear as possible. We've spoken already about how the initial change in translation needs to be significant, so it doesn't fade away before it reaches denser layers. Your intention is what makes the initial change, so it needs to be strong and clear to get real results down in the physical. This is why mystical language and esoteric symbols are not good for magic. The more vague metaphors you employ, the less clear your instruction is to energy, and the less likely your change is to reach the physical. Instead, you can put what you want to happen into your own words, in simple, precise language. An example for self-improvement would be, I intend to improve my memory as much and as quickly as possible. Just by stating that, out loud or in your head, you clearly tell your energy body your intention. It can then clearly instruct the parts of your brain associated with memory. A magic spell should follow the same principle. It's just you clearly wording your intent, but directing it outward instead. The more you repeat your phrase, the more you mean it, the stronger that signal of intent gets. Another way to make your intention strong and clear is to visualize your desired outcome. For our memory example, this would mean picturing yourself easily recalling things. Simply feeling the will for this transformation to occur as intensely as you can massively boosts the strength of your intention too. All you need to start changing your life right now is vocalization, visualization, and will. The same simple techniques work for self-improvement, magic, all applications of intention, because they make what you want strong and clear, and that is what translates best. With this important principle covered, we can now get on to how magic in particular works, and how to do it best. There are 3 special properties of the magical energy field that give it this ability to easily create a general transformation. The first is it's especially responsive to human intent, perhaps the most of any layer. That means it's easy to affect even if you haven't practiced, aren't entirely sure what you're doing. It's why magic has remained so popular, that accessibility to beginners. You can get results from your very first spell, even if you're using the traditional, overly complicated way, because it's just so easy to instruct. You get maximum change for minimum effort. The second special property is it's a continuous energy field. Many layers have distinct objects, but magical energy is all connected. That's why I call it a field. If you could see it with your special camera, it would show up as these purplish waves all around us. But what does that actually mean? When you put your intention into this connected field, that signal ripples out across it. Your change is automatically carried across great distances to wherever it needs to go, instead of you having to project it there yourself. So not only is magical energy easy to initially instruct, but that instruction can also travel. The third property is the magical layer is on the more fluid end of the spectrum. That gives it the changeability needed to receive your intent. But it also means that change has to translate through many layers to reach the physical. With all the translation, there is a loss of clarity. As such, magic can be a bit imprecise and difficult to predict. There can be unintended consequences if you're not careful and clear in your instruction. This unpredictability is why magical energy shouldn't be used for self-improvement. If you get these unintended consequences in your external life, you can correct for that. If you make unintended changes to your core being, that's a lot more serious. It's much safer and more effective to directly work on your own energy if you want to improve your physical body, mind, or personality traits. Magic has other drawbacks. It takes time to produce a noticeable physical effect because of the sheer number of layers it needs to get through. Also, it's not good at details. These tend to literally get lost in translation. By the time your change gets to the physical, only the core aim will remain. But magic is perfect for easily creating broad transformation in your life, because it's so responsive to your intention, and it transmits your change far and wide. For someone dissatisfied with life who wants change in lots of areas, it's a great tool. We now have all the pieces we need to finally explain how magic works, step by step. It's very similar to the process of intention we covered before, just with the special properties of this layer added in. And once you know this, how to practice magic becomes obvious. You don't have to guess anymore. Step 1. You project your intention into the magical energy field, using your own words, visualization, will, etc. The intention to make a particular change rapidly translates up the layers of your energetic brain. It then coordinates with your heart. As long as you specifically intend to do magic, they'll beam your intention as instruction into the field around you. Just like the previous examples, you make your intention clear with vocalization. That's all a spell is. Mystical language copied from others won't work well, and won't reflect your own desires. So use your own clear words. Repeat them, mean them. Visualization and intense feeling will make your instruction to magical energy even stronger. Like I said at the start, these methods don't have the power. You do. They're just means of clarifying your intention, and nothing complex or esoteric is needed. Step 2. Your intention hugely changes the magical energy field because it's so responsive. The magical energy around you receives your intent. What was a mostly formless purple ocean adjusts into a new shape, takes on a new quality. It remodels itself into the right configuration for whatever effect you wanted, without that much exertion from you, because you made the instruction clear and strong, and because it's so uniquely responsive to intent anyway. The changes spread out to all the relevant places. If you were doing a spell on the atmosphere of a location, for example, it needs to get there in particular. If it's on your social life, that effect needs to be around you, wherever you might socialize. So it sort of goes in every direction. Because magical energy is a continuous field, the effect automatically ripples out to wherever it's needed. Again, it does the hard work. You only need to do a tiny bit of projection at the start. As you repeat your spell, visualize the outcome you want, the field reaches a saturation point. The signal of your intent has been fully received. The shape's right, the location's right. You can now go about your daily life. The rest of the steps will happen without any further input from you. Step 3. The change translates down many layers, losing some precision. It has quite far to go before it gets to the physical, because the magical energy field is near the top of the spectrum we've been talking about. This process takes time. Some details may be lost in translation. But if you've been clear and stuck to broad changes, then it should still be effective. Step 4. Changes reach the physical, and you get noticeable results. Your intention created the right configuration of the magical energy field. That's now translated down the layers, and it finally makes the corresponding change in the densest energies, including the physical. Remember, energy is incredibly influential in our daily lives. It's always translating to the physical anyway. So once you've made this big energetic change across a wide area, you'll notice its influence. That can be through events seemingly aligning with your aim. Other people suddenly behaving in a way that delivers it. Opportunities you never would have encountered otherwise falling into your lap. If you cast a spell for more social opportunities, somebody you've not spoken to for ages might invite you to an event out of the blue. As part of delivering your instructed aim, the field has reached across to them and translated down layers so that it influences their behavior. Hopefully that explanation all made sense. You got all the basics of the structure of reality, translation, and how we're built to influence energy. We saw how intention can be used for many things, including broad transformation, using the special properties of the magical energy field. So now you know exactly how magic works. It's not the whole universe responding to your desire, it's using one energetic field. It's not drawing on some power outside you, inviting in spirits. It's about your intention instructing that energy. You have the power to change your life. And it's not about the 4 elements using the right herbs or colour of candle. Symbols are entirely optional. They can boost intention if used sparingly, responsibly, but they've become overemphasized down the years, as if they're the essential part. In fact, symbols often just weaken magic. Direct instruction of the magical energy field is the way to go. Now we understand what magic is about and how it works, we can move on to optimum practice, the best way to do it based on this knowledge. I'm going to give a step-by-step guide from deciding what change you want to composing a spell to actually instructing magical energy. What follows is a rough template that you can customize with experience. It should work for anyone, even total beginners, to bring genuine change. We start with some simple preparation. Step 1. Setting an aim. The first step of doing magic should always be deciding exactly what change you want. Remember, magic isn't suited to self-improvement, so your aim shouldn't work directly on your own body, mind, personality, or spirit. It should be about some external change in your situation, environment, or the opportunities you encounter, without being too specific. So, we're going to start by choosing a broad aspect of your life, such as your career, social life, or luck. I've put a big list on screen to illustrate some of the options. You might instinctively know what you need to work on, but if you aren't sure, think about what's holding you back the most. What would make the most difference to your everyday life? Where do you need to advance first to get other things you want? However, if you just gave the instruction, I want my career to improve, that would be too vague. You might get a promotion, but also a much greater workload. Something you don't want gets bundled with what you do, because you weren't clear enough. So we need to narrow it down slightly. There's a couple of ways to do this. You can decide what you really want long term in that area. Then think what the first step would be. If we stick with our career example, that might be finding a new job. Once you've achieved that, your next magic could be on helping the interview to go well, and so on. You transform your life towards some vision a bit at a time. If you're not sure what you want long term, your magic could be to achieve one small thing in that area that would make you happier, healthier, improve your existence the most right now. The reason we're not trying to do everything at once is that's too ambitious for beginners. You need to practice using your intention to change reality, like building up a muscle. Your brain and heart can only make so much energetic change at first. The instruction cuts out. But each time you do it, they're able to hold on just a little longer, do a little more. So, starting with smaller changes will steadily develop your energetic strength, until you're ready to create huge transformation. A simpler aim also means you'll get quicker results. Complex changes take longer, because more information needs to translate between every layer. Next, decide what criteria that first step or small change needs to fulfill. What should it bring to your life? What really matters to you? What would it need to be like before you called it a success? You put it all together to get your final aim. A good example would be finding a new job that genuinely helps people and has enough pay that you can live comfortably. It's got all the parts we covered. It's an external change, it's a first step in your career, and there's 2 reasonable criteria it needs to fulfill. It's clear, not overly ambitious, and not too specific either. Another example, if you'd chosen health as your broad area, your aim might be to find a fun activity to keep you fit. That doesn't take up too much time and where you can make new friends. Notice we've stuck to that golden rule of magic working on the circumstances around you, not directly on the body, even though it's to do with health. So, you pick a broad area of your life to improve, decide what change you want within that, then what criteria it needs to meet. This template will enable you to set an aim with the right level of ambition and precision. As you practice, you'll get your own feel for what works, but you might want to stick to this template for the first few spells. By the way, if you're really struggling to decide what you want, then getting new general opportunities within an area is a great aim, because it keeps your options open. You can say no if whatever presents itself is not what you had in mind, so there's little risk of unintended consequences. Once you've got your aim, the second step is deciding limits, what you don't want to happen. Remember, magic can be a bit unpredictable. Limits mitigate this. You might have red lines that you always put into place. For me, that would be, this will do no harm, and it won't directly act on me but on my environment. I would highly recommend that you adopt those two, but it's up to you. For each individual piece of magic, you can decide limits by mentally going through what could go wrong. If you wanted money, for example, you might want to specify that it shouldn't be through somebody passing away and getting inheritance, or something illegal. It's up to you how many limits you put in place, but remember you don't want to constrain the magic too much, or get bogged down in fine details. 3 is about the right balance. Third step, decide on your method of getting that intention across. A spell, putting it into words and speaking it into the magical energy field, is the easiest way to make yourself clear. Visualization is powerful too. You can picture your life once this change takes place, what your days will look like. You can also use symbolic objects, so long as you make it clear what they represent, or draw what you want to happen. These are just different means of making your intention known, getting that signal across. Remember that you don't need any equipment. I usually combine a spell, the feeling of intent, and visualization. That's more than enough to make a difference. So if you're a beginner, I'd recommend sticking to that. But you can experiment as you grow in confidence. And that's all the preparation you need. You just decide what change you want according to a simple template, what you don't want, and how you're going to get that intention across. It's worth writing these 3 things down. For one thing, it forces you to properly think about it. Plus, having your aims and limits in front of you makes sure you don't forget anything when it comes to casting your spell. Now you can start actually doing magic. Sit somewhere quiet where you won't be interrupted, ideally with your aims, limits and methods written in front of you. Get into a state of calm but determined focus. Don't overthink this, a few deep breaths will do the job. I usually start by instructing the magical energy field with words. Remember, clear language is best, nothing mystical. You don't even need to prepare a speech in advance, as long as you have your aims and limits in front of you to refer to. If you can speak aloud, that's great. It makes it easier to compose proper sentences. But thinking or mouthing the words will work too. Just make sure you're focused and taking it seriously. Your mind isn't wandering. Here's a rough template where you can insert whatever aims and limits you already prepared. Say or think something like, I intend to, then insert your core aim, what that first step is. Have one more sentence setting out your criteria, then insert your limits. Finally say, I put this instruction into the magical energy field. Here's a simple example, so you can see how to structure your spell. I intend to create the ideal conditions around me for effectively working from home. There will be no distractions, temptations, or noise. Events align, so I'm able to focus. But this magic won't act directly on me, no harm will be done by it. And anything absolutely vital will still come to my attention. I put this instruction into the magical energy field. Repeat your spell a few times, making sure you mean what you say. There's intention and will behind it. Remember to focus your instruction into the magical energy around you. If you've already developed your psychic abilities, or you're naturally energy sensitive, it does help if you can perceive the field when you do this. But as long as you can picture a purplish, wavy energy around you, and your instruction going into it in some way, then it will receive your intent. As you repeat your spell, you can also start visualizing the change you want, what your life will look like after it. Employ whatever methods you decided on in the preparation. Feel the will for it to happen as strongly as you can. Use symbols or drawings of your own devising, if you like. As you make your intention strong and clear, the magical energy field will start literally bending to your will, taking on a new shape. If you learn how to psychically perceive energy, you'll even be able to see this process for yourself. Regardless, you might feel something happening. like there's a shift in the room, like something's taking in what you're saying. If you don't feel anything, that's fine, it's still working. I'm just letting you know it's a possibility, so it doesn't freak you out. Keep repeating your spell and other methods until it feels like the instruction has fully gone in. Don't be tentative about it, keep pushing. Put a bit of effort in, like a true magician would. If you aren't sure when it's done, then a few minutes will usually do the trick. You can finish off by intending for the change to take place as soon as possible, for the transformation to be as noticeable as possible, whatever applies to your particular aim. Picturing a last blast of your intention going into the magical energy field around you can help cement things. If you wish, you can sign off by saying something like, "It is done," or "That is my intent." Then you just leave the magic to do its work. You might be all excited or nervous in case you did something wrong, but honestly the best thing you can do is go about your day as normal. If you check on it constantly, fret about it, try to redo it, that'll just confuse the magic. Believe that it's done and it'll work, and just leave it. Get up and go about your business, keeping one eye out for any signs that it's working. And that's it. It's not mystical or complicated. Just prepare your aim, limits and methods, focus on the field, strongly and clearly instruct it, then leave the magic to work. You can use that same template every time, or adapt it as you go. Remember, there will be a delay before you notice a change in your life. The magic needs time to translate. For a simple first step, this is usually just a few hours. If it's more complex and widespread, it might be days. And it might be a modest effect, especially if you're just starting out. But it will get better as you practice. With mainstream magic, there's a cap on how good you can get, because it's so wasteful and misdirected. With this alternative method, you can keep getting better. The only thing you can do afterwards to help is make sure you're in a physical situation that's compatible with your aim. For example, if you did a spell to make new social connections, and then you stayed in bed for 2 days, it's unlikely to work. You need to give magic the opportunity to give you opportunities. Make its job easier by putting yourself in the kinds of situations where what you want to happen could feasibly occur. You now have a template for how to do your first few spells, based on how magic actually works, instead of vague stories and superstitions. But how can you improve your magic long term? My main advice is that nothing beats practice. Just actually try that template and keep doing some kind of magic or at least intention work every day. That muscle will get stronger. You'll get enough experience to customize your methods and figure out what works best for you. I know life gets in the way. You have other things to do. But what could be more important than developing the ability to change reality? This is what gives you control over what happens to you. A sense of excitement and purpose, the kind of life you've always wanted. Does anything else do that? It's worth making it your priority. It's best if you keep a journal of what results you get. See if you can figure out why one spell worked really well and another didn't, and use that information for the next time. Even with a great understanding of the basics, it'll still be a learning process, but a very exciting one. Psychic abilities are very useful in doing any kind of intention work. They let you see or feel the energy you're working with firsthand. You know if what you're doing is effective. You can figure out your own ways to do things without guessing or relying on second-hand information. That's how I was able to create this new technique. I clairvoyantly saw that this field was the mechanism behind magic, and traditional methods weren't the best way to instruct it. So, to push your magic to the next level, psychic perception is a must. Unfortunately, most of the stuff out there about it is vague rubbish, just like magic. I have made another video on psychic abilities for complete beginners. I'll link it in the description if you're interested. If a spell ever doesn't seem to work, wait first in case translation is just taking a while. But if there's still nothing, here's a quick checklist you can go through. Was your aim too vague, too precise, or maybe too ambitious? Did you stay focused during the instruction, or did your mind wander? Did you really push your intention into the energy field, or did you just go through the motions? Did you put yourself in a physical situation where what you wanted could feasibly occur? 9 times out of 10, it'll be one of these issues, and the fix is really simple. Just repeat the spell after a while, but change whatever element went wrong. But if you're sure you did everything right and you still didn't get much of a result, then it's probably down to interference. Very basically, there are certain spirits and energetic structures that don't want you to get better or change your life, that hold back humanity. They're parasites, they feed off our spiritual energy. So if you discover tools to empower yourself, then that's very bad news for them. You might gain the ability to see and remove them. So sometimes if you make some spiritual advancement, they put these implants or devices in your energy body. These can dull your ability to influence energy, or introduce negative thoughts that put you off doing magic, even though there's so much potential and it's so easy. Thankfully, you can remove these, and I've already posted the full method. I'll put a link somewhere in the description. You use the same basic process of intention, so it's not difficult. Removing implants will boost your magic, make you feel better day to day, free your mind from all kinds of interference. It's super important, so I highly recommend checking that out. Another thing these parasitic spirits might do is put an illusionary layer around you that looks and feels similar to the magical one. It's to trick you into misdirecting all that energy and effort into something that won't give you anything back. Once you know about that possibility, though, this is easily remedied. You simply intend to push beyond any false magical layer into the real one, perhaps visualizing punching holes through it. So, if your magic ever doesn't work, go through that basic troubleshooting list first, and you can also try removing implants and pushing through any illusions. One natural limit to your magical power is that spells tend to fade over time. That's because the field and other layers tend to revert to their ordinary state. If you did some magic on having a harmonious home environment, for example, you might notice very quick change. It'll be so much better for the first day and a half, but then the old chaos starts to creep back in. There's a few ways you can get your magic to last longer. You can simply repeat the spell. Maybe word it a bit differently. Try some other methods like a self-devised ritual, or sign off by saying you intend for it to last as long as possible. It's a chance to do it even better than the last time. And since this alternative technique of doing magic only takes a couple of minutes, topping up the spell every so often won't take up much of your time. Another way to stop your magic fading is by being smarter with the change you choose to make. For the harmonious home example, you could intend to attract a new person or situation in to change the dynamic. Once you've got something physical in place that changes events by its presence, you no longer need to constantly do magic. Work out what new factor would lastingly deliver what you want, and make that your next aim. Other applications of intention can also help. If you heal the energetic layers of your home instead of just doing magic, the natural state it reverts to becomes better than before. Same goes for any location or person associated with your aim. That links to my final bit of advice. Magic isn't a universal cure, so it's best to use it in conjunction with other tools. It's a bit unpredictable, you can't use it for very specific goals, it takes time when you might need change fast, and it isn't suitable for self-improvement. But there are plenty of other ways to use intention. You can heal your energy body and remove implants to steadily improve yourself. Develop psychic abilities so you can perceive and work things out on your own. Try spiritual powers for almost instant effects. If you use all these in tandem, then you can improve your life much faster. I've already posted videos on these areas for beginners. They're mostly on TikTok, which I'll link to. The format is just text on a screen which you can read and try at your own pace. One last tip. A great thing to do, after trying a few spells, is to intend to improve your ability to instruct energy. Just tell your own energy body to get better at it. Visualize yourself getting spiritually stronger. The next time you instruct the magical energy field, you'll be even better at it. It should be even more effective. If you can find the time to do some magic every day and just one other intention exercise, you'll find you improve on multiple fronts at once. There's no real cost to trying this stuff, and the benefits are massive. I know this video was packed with a pretty overwhelming amount of information, so please ask questions in the comments. I'm happy to clarify things. There's plenty more exciting ways to transform your life, and I plan to keep posting about them. So it's worth subscribing, bookmarking this page, if you want to keep seeing ways to improve. Thank you in advance. You don't have to suffer in a mundane, meaningless existence anymore. You now have the tools to change it. I know I used to be guilty of just sitting on information, saving it somewhere and forgetting about it. Please don't make the same mistake. Try that template as soon as you can, and go and transform your life.